Podcast. I'm Zoe Whitman. I'm in South Wales and I'm joined by Jo Wood in Kent. Hi Jo, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. We're having a busy day today, podcasts and meetings, but it's all good. And yeah, great to be back to work and I'm really excited for today's podcast.
Oh, me too. So today we're really happy to be joined by Elsewine Rietveld. I hope I've pronounced that right, Elsewine. And we're going to be talking about getting comfortable on camera and you know what, in just conversations with our clients and on video. And I'm really excited because I know this is something that bookkeepers in our community really struggle with. So Elsewine, thanks so much for joining us. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm quite good. Having a full day as well. Plus this evening our daughter graduates, our eldest, from secondary school. So we will have a diploma tonight.
Oh, lovely.
Which is very exciting.
Party?
Later on, not tonight.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's brilliant. What an amazing milestone to be reaching. So do you want to start by telling us a little bit about what you do?
Yes, I am a confidence trainer and I help professionals get out of overthinking and feeling really calm and confident when they speak to others, whether that's pitching something or speaking to a group of people, and of course also on camera. And the reason I do this is because I used to be terrified in front of groups. And the first time I set up the camera to record and I started out thinking, let's create an online course, which was maybe a bit much. But I set up the camera, I had 2 lights, I borrowed a tripod, and then I walked out of the room. I was just too scared to even press record. So when people are listening and they are feeling really uncomfortable and avoiding the camera, I absolutely know how that feels.
It's a real challenge, isn't it? And I think a lot of our bookkeepers will relate to the idea of being an introvert and perhaps not even attempt to do that, to set up that opportunity to video, because just thinking this isn't for me, I'm not going to be able to do this. So what would you suggest to people? Like, how can they start to approach the idea of getting themselves out there if they relate to the idea of being an introvert and are afraid to get themselves out there?
Yeah, I think it's something really worth looking into, because what is the power of video? It is so much more than just text and pictures. So when you want to attract clients to your business, they want to know who they do business with. And I think especially for bookkeepers, you have a business and there are the numbers and it's a bit sensitive. So you really feel you have to like someone and trust someone. And I think that's the case for most of the things, or coaching or training, what you do, but especially with something like this. And when you get out there on video, you give people a chance to really get to know you. So when you've written text and a picture, people really cannot grasp the idea of who you are. So you're doing them a service. So it really helps to shift the focus from you. We are overthinking, like, what will everybody think? I hear so many times people say, oh, I made a video and I really hate it, and I look this and my voice is that, and yada yada. And then they see comments on social media like, oh, this is such a good tip, thank you, you're brilliant, I love it. So we are so harsh for ourselves as well, which can sort of compound on already the being introvert or not really wanting to get out there. But if you can shift that around, and when you are not out there, the people who need you will not know that you are there and what you can help them with. So yeah, if you can shift it from, it's not about you, it's about them.
This is really interesting. So we were talking to Amy Stevens about websites earlier, and she was saying people don't care about you, they want to know how you can help them. And you've also just made me think of something that I heard. I think it was, I've been reading a Rob Moore book, and he said there's no such thing as introverts and extroverts. Actually, we all are extroverts in certain situations. When we know what we know about, we are able to be an extrovert. When there's something that we don't know about, we are introverts. Like when I take my car to the garage to be fixed, I don't know anything about the car, and I will naturally be on the back foot and maybe a bit like afraid, I'm not afraid of the mechanic, but I won't necessarily know what to say or feel confident saying there's something wrong with my brakes or telling him what I think it is, because I'm not the expert here. But if I'm talking to somebody about bookkeeping, that's completely different. So I think it's important, isn't it, to think about connect to why we think we're an introvert, and what does that stop us from doing?
Yeah, and I have a good exercise for this, actually. So what I like to do is to have the feeling still be there, but come loose from it, or like do it anyway. So it is the sentence as a template. So it starts with even though, and then you fill in the thing that keeps you from it. So it could be even though I'm an introvert, or even though I feel introverted, or even though I feel uncomfortable going on camera, whatever words you give to that. Then you add a positive outcome. And so really think about them. For example, even though I'm an introvert, I know my clients need the info I share, or I know I can change people's lives, or I know people will want to hear what I have to say, or I know so many people struggle with numbers and I can help them. So you don't hide it away or ignore it or pretend it's not there. You acknowledge it, but you do it anyway, because you have to focus on the positive outcome and the greater good, so to say. So this is a really powerful one to use with your own words. So it is even though the struggle or the hurdle you perceive, positive outcome. And then just repeat that sentence to yourself at least 10 times per day, or 10 times in the morning, 10 times in the evening. And the more you say it, the more you will feel it. Like, okay, even though I feel introverted when I speak to others, I know so many people need to hear what I have to say. And that's quite long to repeat 10 times. So see if you can make it shorter. And then if it's before a video, say it a few times to really get into the energy, and then make the video. So that is something that can maybe help for some people to.
So helpful, because I think we always think the worst, don't we? We're always imagining that we're going to make this huge mistake or whatever, but we actually we all know that, and we say this, to be an expert in something, you only need to be 2 or 3 steps ahead of the person that you're teaching. And we've all done our studies, and we do know our stuff. And there are people out there, and I always say, you're being really selfish by keeping this all to yourself. Like, there's someone out there that really needs your help. Get out there and be visible. But using it I suppose you're creating your own affirmation by using that sentence. It's kind of nice and a good thing. I remember the first time I did a video for my business, and it wasn't that I'm an extrovert, because I'm not. People assume that me and Zoe are, because in our group we're out there talking all the time, so people assume that you are. But actually, exactly like what Zoe said, there's no real introvert extrovert. Actually, we pushed ourselves throughout the feeling that we didn't know, because we felt we knew a little bit more and that we could help. And the fact that we do it so frequently, and we do a podcast every week and things like that, means that it just becomes more natural, and you just start forgetting. We just like before now, we were in another meeting, we've got to go and do that, we've got to jump on that, and we just jump on. Now, because of practice makes perfect, but I remember vividly the feelings, the nerves, the knots in my stomach when I very first did my first video that I decided I was going to put out on LinkedIn as an introduction, because exactly that, I felt that if people are going to work with me, they need to know who I am, they need to trust me, and they need to know that I know what I'm doing. So what I did, and I don't know if this is helpful to anyone, but I write my script first when at the beginning. I don't so much anymore, but I used to write out everything that I was going to say, and then I'd set up the camera and I'd start from the beginning, and I'd get as far as I can, and then I'd stop the recording and go, right, I got that far. What did I forget? And I kind of remember links, that word links to that word. Now, at first it sounds quite robotic, but because I kept stopping, starting, doing an extra sentence more. Right, I've got stuck there. By the time I did it, the beginning bit and everything, I'd done about 10 times. And I was so into the flow and I knew what I was going to say. It started becoming properly my words in a more relaxed way than sounding script-like. And I remember I got to the final one. I was like, right, I've got to the end. And I know, but I think by pressing record and knowing it wasn't going to be the final one, I was going to be recording it again, gave me more confidence to press that record button, I got to the one where I was about to do the end and my mother-in-law called me like 30 seconds before the end. And I was like, no, I was so close to being done. But actually, it meant that I did that full thing for a second time. And actually, I was even more relaxed that time. So really, I think it is about finding techniques, the affirmation, making it not about you. Love that. It's not about you. It's about the people that need to hear your message. And finding ways that to, like you said, you didn't even press that record button when you first did it, Elsewine. It was like, this setup is too much for me. I'm leaving the room. But knowing that the first time you press the record it, you're going to be deleting it. It's fine. You're just practicing. Do you think that's helpful to just keep practicing?
Yeah, keep practicing for sure. So personally, I started out like that actually, but the way I did it was I wrote a script and then I would repeat it and like in front of the mirror or out loud. And then I would record it, but I would leave the script laying down. So I would not really do that. And there's two sides to that. I'm now not so much a fan of really using a script, like you say, because Joe, it sounds robotic. And people I've spoken to, I've written a book and I've interviewed people for it. And those are the exact words one of the ladies used was, I sounded robotic. And she's an actress. So she was used to the camera. But when she was making videos for LinkedIn for her business, it scared her as well. So, even people who are professionals, in it, like Zoe said before, we're introverted and extroverted in different situations. It's the same with skills. When you are good an actress on screen and directing behind the camera doesn't mean that you can record a video for your mindset business. And she used the word robotic as well, so that made me think of that. And I think practice is good. If you really feel you need to, you can write it out. But sometimes the focus goes too much on the words, which sound also different because when you write, you sound different than when you speak. So if you can, what I find helpful is either work with that and repeat it a few times, but really speak it in a more natural way. Like you say, just say it. Start with short videos too. Like if you do a video of a minute, it's easier. And then, so I always say, have the lens of your camera at eye level and then look through the lens as if another person is sitting across from you at the table. It's a natural place and it's your best friend or it's your ideal client and it's just them and you are telling them what you want to say. So imagine if you go networking, you walk into the room, you sit at a table across from each other. You're not taking out a paper and start reading out what you do or how some technical aspect of bookkeeping works or the European rules of VAT or what have you. You know the stuff. So it's also a matter of trust that you know what you do. So I really agree with what you say about practicing it a lot. And if it helps, you can write down some sentences or some words or some like bullet points. But I would also practice just speaking naturally as if your friend was there. And some people find it helpful to actually print out a picture of their friend or of their client and hang that behind the camera. So they're really speaking to that person.
Oh my goodness, I love that idea of having a picture of like your best friend or something. when we started doing the podcast, Joe said about starting this, and I used to have, it wasn't a script, it was the intro and the outro. I mean, anyone who's listened to this podcast will know that I always mess up the ending. I never know what to say. I don't know how to round it up. And and I've done various versions of it. And I used to have a little script that would remind me what we needed to say at what point in the podcast. And then another example of trying to script things, I remember being as part of a coaching program. We all had to learn how to put these 60-second pitches together, and it was really important that you had it broken into these different sections. So you would talk you would tell people about the traction that you had got with what you've been doing so far. That was an important part. I had to have traction, and then you had to have a call to action at the end, and you had to, had some kind of, I don't know, but it had various parts that you had to cover. And I got so distracted by making sure I covered all those points and remembering what they were, or remembering I cover the right things at the right point in the podcast, that I forget about the actual conversation and the point of doing that. And I probably would argue that maybe being in a networking situation where you've got your ideal client sitting opposite you probably doesn't feel like bookkeepers with the biggest confidence they've ever had, because they're probably thinking, I must get this client, absolutely, like I need this person in my life. What tips would you have for people who are, okay, you might have a couple of keywords that you want to remember written on a card or something, but if you're in that situation and you're faced with someone who would be a really good prospect for you, how can you relax?
Yeah, so what I like to think of is, again, shift the perspective to them. So have a curiosity and be unattached. So the moment that you feel like I need this client, the energy shifts, and it won't even be in your words, but they will really feel you being needy, or something feels off for them. And even though you are like the most sincere, honest, perfect, wonderful person in the world, if you have that energy, it will come across. So if you just feel unattached, I will just tell them what I can do for them, and I will see if they work with me or not. Either way is fine. If you have that energy and then you are curious, like, who are they? What's their business? What are their struggles? What would they want from a bookkeeper? Again, with that, you really put your focus on them. You know already your stuff and you know what you can do. You can think about your why. That's also a good one. So when they ask you a question, talk more about why you started this work, because that brings out like a sparkle in your eyes and it gives you more energy. Because instead of saying like, if you say like, okay, I help people feel confident to speak in front of groups, or if you say, I used to struggle so much and now I love helping other people get in front of the room because that changed so much for me. That is my big why, or whatever that is. Even if you don't say it, but if you keep your why in mind, and if you stay curious about the other and unattached, whether they become your client or not, I think that will make such a difference. So you feel more relaxed already, and then the conversation can flow even more naturally. And so often it's not the person that you speak with in networking who actually becomes your client, but very often it's someone they know. So again, with that, it's just like curious. Who are they? What do they need? How can I help them? Or maybe they know someone who needs my services. Like maybe they have a brother, sister, friend, and they heard them say like, oh, I'm looking for a bookkeeper. And then suddenly, because you speak so passionately about your why, they're like, oh,
yeah,
wow, this person said last week, so let's connect you two. So
it's so interesting you say that, because I do my sales calls over Zoom, and I do my discovery calls over Zoom, and I was talking to our group this morning in our membership. I was explaining that how I do it, because we was talking about how do you do a proposal, and I said exactly that. I said I go in and ask questions. It's not about me, it's about them. and questions are the answers as such. So if you go in and ask them, and we know that icky feeling we get when we speak to a car sales guy that's telling us, this is what you need, this is how it is for you, this is the car you need, or let me go and speak to my manager, or let me do this. And it's like, it's not about you. And you get that feeling, exactly what you said, when you've got pound signs above your head. That's how I feel. If you go into a conversation with that, I really need that client, I know how I feel when somebody's aggressively selling at me and they want me for their month-end bonus. You can tell that feeling. But if you go in and you just ask questions about them, you learn so much about them. You build a rapport, and also you're talking less. You're listening twice as much. I love that saying, we have 2 ears to listen twice as much, 1 mouth to, speak less. So and it also takes away that scariness, because all I know is that I say, hi, thank you for getting in contact with me. I'm so grateful that you did. Tell me about yourself. Why are you here today? Why do you want to speak to me? How did your business start? All of those questions. And I'm listening. They're talking. They're at ease because they're talking about themselves, whereas they're mostly nervous about talking about finances. They don't want to talk about finances. And then I ask them questions about, so what currently do you do? Who do you have? Your bookkeeper, your accountant, how does that work? And then they usually start saying something, I might pick up on something a bit negative, and then I can say, do you know what? That's exactly why I got into this business, because I've been in this industry for 20 years. And it always used to frustrate me that my clients only got their information once a year, and they didn't know where they were, and they didn't know how much money they had, and they didn't know how much tax they had to pay. So I thought this is why I've started my business, to change this. And I can talk about the why. And it's so right. So it's funny, I naturally do that, but I didn't know that I was doing that.
Oh, yeah, so cool. Yeah, and that helps for a lot of people to do, if it's not coming so naturally, to shift that attention from having to sell or like being at your best to being curious, like what's going on for them indeed. So yeah, love that you do that as well.
Can I ask you about video? So at the moment we can't be face to face in real, well, maybe we can soon, but it's been quite difficult. And I think actually probably the whole world has moved to being much more online anyway going forwards. We're not probably going to go back to how things were in a lot of ways. But whenever we suggest to bookkeepers that they need to put a video out there, that is terrifying. And how can people... So I'm thinking of, I do a lot on Instagram, and I think it's much easier to put a quote up or a picture of yourself, picture of your cat, picture of your workspace. There's lots of stuff you can do on there, but actually the thing that people engage with the most is video. And if you are thinking about doing a live video and you don't want to be in that situation that you were in, you'd set everything up, gone into your room, and then you're like, I can't do this. What's the best way for people to get ready, like actually practically to go into that situation and do a video?
Yeah, so do you mean live video or recorded? Because there's still a difference between them.
Yeah, it's a good point. And I suppose if you're not feeling you can do a live, then you have the option of recording, don't you? Is that would you suggest people started there?
Well, there are 2 kinds of people. So one type that I work with a lot says like, oh, I don't know where to start and I find it super scary, and live is like not even in this world. It feels like too far away. And other people are like, oh, well, as long as it's live, I'm okay. There are other people, there are questions coming, there's interaction. It's just like as I'm in front of the group. Plus, I know it's live. So if anything goes wrong, well, I can't do anything about it. So especially perfectionists, they can love to go live because it feels like, it's a done deal and you cannot do it over and overthink. But of course, with a live, even when it's totally messed up, you can still delete the live, right? It's only a few people seeing it. But still, they feel more comfortable doing a live video than doing a recorded video. So first of all, figure out for yourself. So if you feel like live is too, out of this world to think about. I was like that when I started. I didn't even press record on a recorded video. I couldn't imagine going live at all. So then start with recorded videos. So what I do is I start with short videos. Especially when you do Instagram, I think 1 minute is the maximum if you want to share them in your feed. And you can easily share it to Facebook and LinkedIn at the same video. You know, you can repurpose it in other platforms when you are active there as well. I always say, like, pick one topic for the video, one tip or one idea, or if you want to share something personal, doesn't matter. But if it's like business focused, only one tip per video. So then you can keep them really short. What I do is, now I do more videos, so I batch my videos. So I have a list and I write down the topic. So my tips are, for example, I have eye contact, I have tip on lights. I usually say no reading, no music, background. Those are kinds of questions I get a lot. So I write down the list of topics. I'm not that into the bookkeeping business that I can offhand. So I know the VAT or the quarterlies or the numbers, but there's so much more to it. I can imagine that there are a lot of tiny little topics and tips that you can think about that you can do a video on. So you can either just do one video and share it, but it can also help to batch your videos, so do multiple videos, because you sort of get into the flow of it. What I do then before I do a video is I do some stretches, some physical stretches. So you could do some like energizing the body, whatever you do, like dancing, yoga, stretches before your workout, when you're running, whatever you have, like really stretch out like your arms up and your legs and your calves, and like rolling the shoulders, really physically warm up, because it's not only about the words in your head, it's really bringing your whole person to the conversation. Then I do a voice warming up and I have my topics ready. Then I make sure, of course, the light is okay, the background is not distracting. And when that's all done, it is what we talked about before. I picture one person that I'm speaking to. I look through the lens and I really imagine a real person watching. And this is something someone said really helped for them as well. That is for the people who feel more comfortable going live and they have no idea, they get stuck when they have to record. I say there's still people watching. There's just a time delay between when you record it and when they hear it. And that was such a game changer for some people. They said, like, I love to look at it like that, because they feel I'm just here in the room with my phone or with my computer and I'm talking to a thing, but the thing is you're not. You're talking to a person, only there's a little bit of delay. So basically it's prepare like stretches, voice, lights, topic. Don't overcomplicate it. You know what you want to say, you're ready to say it, and then practice. And you can always delete if it's really bad, but don't do in your first few videos you could. But I hear so many people saying, like, oh, I did 15 takes, I did 20 takes, and I shared the first one or maybe the second one. So if it's something happening, like Joe said, like your mother-in-law calls right when you're in the middle of the video, we've all have that happen. So now I have my phone on mute, on airplane mode when I record a video, because that happened to me as well. So you learn from that. You're like, oh, I'm going to record some videos. Okay, I will put off the email system. Otherwise you hear ploying, and then you go like, oh, do they hear this as well? And then you're forgot what you're going to say. So I have to distract. But if that happens, you know, you learn from it, and then next time you're like, okay, I will put my phone on mute so nobody can call when I'm recording, and then you don't need to redo. But don't fall in this pitfall with recording, like it has to be perfect. In the beginning, I did 2 or maximum 3 shots, and I would watch them back. And where I felt the most like I like her, that was the clip I would pick when I felt the most warmth or connection. And it wasn't where I'm still not perfect in my videos. You cannot be. I leave my mistakes in. And when I started out, I would really edit out every and ah. So that would take so much time. And now I just leave it in. And if you're really overthinker, you could not watch it back at all. So some people like to watch it back and some don't. So
I was just going to say that.
and
I
post.
can't watch it back. And actually, I like the fact now that I have mistakes in everything. Like when me and Zoe chat, I say the wrong thing, I and ah, but that's me, because I know, for me, I think is done is better than perfect. So, and I know that if I'm going to have to get something perfect, it's going to take me hours, and then that means it won't get done. So I think it's about getting over that, where you still care. Obviously, you still care, but you're not. It's not about putting out the most amazing thing ever. It's just getting it out there, getting what you want to say out there. And actually, like you say, when you start doing it, the response you get is so positive. It's so rare that someone's going to say, oh, you're speaking absolute crap. And I'm going to say that, especially if you're concentrating on one tip at a time. It's just saying, hi, hope everyone's well. Just thought I could tell you this top tip today. And then, I'll be back soon with another one. Like just really quick and snappy. And then now what I find is someone asked me to do a review on something the other day, and they're like, just 5 minutes. I finished it and it was 18 minutes. And I was like, oh my God, I don't shut up. Because now I've got comfortable, I just chat. And actually, that's what people want. They just want you to have a conversation, but just a one-sided one. And the other thing I noticed really funny recently is that I do voice notes all the time on WhatsApp or Messenger. I love doing a voice note, and I sent one to my sister, and she's a real kind of an introvert, and I just got a voice note back of her giggling, and I was like, what's so funny? She was like, oh my God, you're so brave. Like, she wrote this back, you're so brave, how do you do that? And I was like, I didn't even realize a voice note was a brave thing to do, because I just have done it so much recently. So I think everyone's got to realize that everyone feels nervous to begin with, but actually it's like anything, isn't it? The more you do of it, I'm sure you didn't know what a debit and a credit was, and was like, oh my goodness, how do I do a bank rec? Or all of these things we have to push through and grow. But everything you've said, Elsewine, is there's so many tips to build that confidence, getting the lighting right, getting the backdrop right, making sure that you're looking through the lens. I love that tip. Having someone's face just looking over maybe the top of your laptop or something, so that you could, or maybe you could put their face there and cut out the eye for the.
Some people do that. Yeah,
I love it. I'm going to do those, because I do feel like I'm talking to a thing. This is why I love doing our podcast and things, because I'm actually talking to you. But and so you do a much more live videos. I'm still find that I will do it, but I don't find it easy. But I think those tips you've given us make it much easier. I love the idea of speaking to somebody, not just a camera lens.
Yeah, now can I quickly address what you just said as the first thing, Joe, that most people will love it for sure. And there will be some, well, I don't how what's the language you use? Can we say dickhead or not? But they are.
You can say dick. Yeah.
There are some of those. And actually, when I started out a few years ago, well, I'm doing this for 7 or 8 years now. And I think I was doing some videos, and there was this guy in the Netherlands, and he was just ranting on everything that was wrong with my video. And he wrote me like this long message in private message. It just baffled me. Like, if you don't like it, just scroll on. It won't resonate with everyone, and that's fine, because then they're not your people and they will never become your clients anyway, or share people to you, or like refer people. They won't ever be. So there will be haters, but it's them. It's you trigger something in them, or they are maybe jealous actually that you do the videos and they do not, or whatever it is. So then find some support, and you have a wonderful group here with you too, if that would happen. And I don't say it will, but it can. It did feel really yucky for me, and then I had to get over that, because I actually knew him personally, and I was like, what the it's going on here? Like, what? And it was everybody else was so positive, like you say, and they love the tips, and they're like, inspiring. And some people, when it's not for them, scroll on and look for something that you do like. But this was just so weird. And yeah, that can really get to you. So if that would happen to you when you start out, find some nice supportive people, focus on the positive responses. Don't let it hold you back, because it's them, it's not you, really. So that's just on what you said, Joe, about most people.
It's really important to highlight it, actually, because I think this is a lot of the reason that some people hold themselves back, because they're afraid that someone is going to say something, or particularly people who've maybe left a corporate role to set up their own businesses. They think, and often, like we say, connect with people on LinkedIn, and people are often like, well, I don't know that I want to connect. I don't know that I want to be on LinkedIn, because that's where a lot of my previous colleagues are, and they might be judging me and thinking, well, who, what are they doing? Who do they think they are? And that kind of thing. And that's it. Actually, the reason to stay connected with those people is because they might know people who become your clients, so that there is a good reason to be connected with those people. And the people who aren't for you aren't for you. Those people who for some reason are triggered, Joe and I were talking about this morning, it's often a reflection of something in you that triggers you. So it's something about them, it's nothing to do with you. And we can block these people. We don't have to. We can report them, we can block them, we don't have to be affected by it. But I don't, if I get comments like that, I delete them and don't look at them. I've had like trolling comments on things before, and just I don't even look at the comments now, because sometimes I'm just like, why am I getting dragged into this? It just doesn't even matter. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And the people who are actually making nasty comments from the corporate world, they are probably jealous that you are so brave to take this step, and they maybe have thought about it, but they feel they can't do it themselves, and that's a way of acting out. So like you say, just block or delete and move on.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, he's muted.
Yeah. Oh, I was just going to say, so my final question for you then is, how you will have noticed that I take a long time to get my point across sometimes. So what advice would you give to someone who finds it difficult to get their point across effectively? Because one of the things we mentioned was doing 1 minute videos. And if you want to ramble on a lot like me, you might find that quite difficult to do. So how can you be more succinct?
Yeah, so there's two things to it. So when you set yourself the goal of doing 1 minute videos, it helps to be really have only one thing to say. Like when you say like, because it feels sometimes like everything is important. So I want to talk about this, this, and this. Well, okay, do 3 videos and share the next one tomorrow and the day after that. So to really have one focus, and then it's also a matter of training. I used to do like 2-3 minute videos. I was talking longer about things. So I set myself a challenge a few years back, and it was January, and it's like, okay, every day I'm going to record a video, and it has to be under a minute. And after doing that for 30 days, it became so much easier. I was then reading a book called The Compound Effect, and I was just taking some nuggets from the book. I loved it, and it was only halfway through, and I was like, today I want to talk about this I read in The Compound Effect, and this is what it meant for me, or whatever. So it was a really short, concise topic, so that helps for the short videos. This is also very common when people do speaking. And one of the techniques that I work with in my confidence creation framework is actually to get out of your head and out of overthinking and more to your, what I call your center. It's inside your belly. And it's really strange, but when you focus your attention out of your head, more into your center, first of all, physically, you're much more firm, so you're less easy off balance. And also, you will feel the important things come up for you. So when I'm in my head, sort of this head bubble, everything feels important, all the details. I want to say everything and sort of ramble on. And when I focus my attention, and it's, well, we can't really go too deep into this here now, but an easy thing to start is when you stand up to put your hands under your belly and breathe down and really focus on your breath and put your attention on your really deep breath that you have there. But there's more to this exercise. And I did one actually last week for the first time this year with people in person here in the Netherlands, which was amazing because I used to do that very regularly, but then we were not in the same room with people anymore. And to feel the difference, first of all, when you push someone lightly against the shoulder and their attention is in their head, they're like all over, and just, it's really crazy, but just your attention shift there and you stand so much more firm already. And then when you go speaking, from when you speak with your attention not in your head but lower, it's as if you don't have as much to say. The really important points come forth, and then you don't feel like talking so much. It's really really interesting to see. So
That's
focus on
like
one topic.
magic.
Yeah, it is. But this is why I changed my business from stress and burnout training, prevention training, to 8 years ago to doing this work, because this is only like a really tiny little bit of the method that I've integrated in my background with kinesiology and debating as a speaking focus. So this is from a method called feminine presence, and I'm a licensed trainer in that. Like I said, and I integrated it with my other background to make this my training, but just I felt like this is magic. It changed so much for me, and I've been, for the past 8 years, passing this on to professionals with huge impact. So many people worked with me for 1 day training, and I speak to them 6-7 years later, and they're like, oh, I'm still implementing these techniques on like every week, practically on a daily basis. Or I write to them on LinkedIn, oh, I see you got a promotion. Oh yes, 4 years ago we did this training, and these techniques helped me get this promotion. And so yeah, that's it's really powerful stuff.
Amazing. Wow, I've learned so much today, and I've been paying attention, and I'm going to have to do some work on that. So expect more succinct questions from me in the future. Look, thank you so much for taking the time, Elsewine. It's been really lovely to have a chat and find out more about how we can help bookkeepers to be more confident. I'd love to know, I know you have a book. I'd love for you to tell us about that and how people can find out more about you.
Yeah, so the book is really focused on the video part. So it's called Get Comfortable on Camera, and it covers everything from why video is important. It has an exercise in there where you sit down for less than an hour and you have at the end of it 75 ideas for videos focused for you personally. So it's a really powerful strategy. Plus it has not just random topics, but it gives you a clarity and focus for the video topics to support your business as optimally as possible as well. I share more about how to do live videos. I have the pirate technique for that, and do's and don'ts and tips, etc. is all in there, as well as 9 interviews with professionals, all from different angles, which gives you an extra insight into videos as well. And the website for that is getcomfortableoncamerabook.com, and the book is available through Amazon. And I don't know if you have any listeners in the Netherlands, but if you do, they are on managementbook.nl. It's available as well in print. So I have a print version and a Kindle version, so people can again pick. I prefer physical books, but I know a lot of people read ebooks. So they are both there. And I have an own website called, it's elsewine.com, where people can find more as well.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm probably a Kindle person despite the books all behind me, but I'm more likely to read it on the Kindle. So I will download a copy and I'm going to have a read through. That is absolutely amazing. Thanks so much for taking the time to speak to us today. It's just, you've given us so many amazing ideas. I was like jotting down ideas that we've got a little checklist here for people, how to get ready to do their video. So I'll be sharing that. Thank you so much. I'll link to all of that in the show notes for anyone who's listening. And we'll see you next week for another podcast. Thanks, Elsewine. Take care.
Thank you for having me.